Welcome back to another episode of the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My guest is going to be Sean Light. He is the founder and CEO of Weight Room Wealth. He is also a former strength and conditioning coach with the Arizona Diamondbacks in the minor league system, and also the Los Angeles Lakers strength and conditioning coach for one season. And he and I met when I was at the Diamondbacks, so we talk all about that. He's got some incredible stories, and this is one of my favorite episodes this year. So you guys will really enjoy this. He's very insightful, and he's got a lot of great mindset processes and all that kind of stuff, and along with a lot of funny stories. So you guys will really enjoy my interview with Sean Light. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube channel, which is Too Tall Sports Podcast. Please subscribe there, like, share, comment, leave a review, whatever you can. I drop episodes every Thursday morning at about 4 a.m. Pacific time. So that's usually when you can watch the interviews on YouTube. You can also listen to the interviews if you would like to, just on the audio side, which is going to be Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as I've reminded you over 100 times, if you haven't already, please scroll down when you get the chance on Apple especially, and now Spotify. There's a 5-star rating that you can hit. If you're enjoying this content, I really appreciate it. If you could hit the 5 stars, that would really help boost the show and get some ratings up, and also leave reviews where you can, especially on Apple. You can go to the very bottom and leave a review and say something nice about the Too Tall Sports Podcast. So that would be greatly appreciated. You can listen on Pandora, Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts, and on social media, especially on TikTok. I'm trying to remind you guys, if you're young and you got TikTok, check out my page. I do a lot of fun interactive videos there. Everything you can find on the internet at Too Tall Sports Podcast. So check me out there, and let's have a good time. So let's have some fun. And this is definitely a fun interview with my buddy Sean Light. So enjoy that, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is the founder of Weight Room Wealth. He is a strength and conditioning coach who formerly worked for the Arizona Diamondbacks, which is where I met him, and also the Los Angeles Lakers. He spent most of his college years at West Virginia, and of course at a March Madness favorite, Quinnipiac University. He played basketball there, and he has a brother who played in the big leagues, and I'm happy to have him on. He is Sean Light. What's going on, Sean?
Thank you so much, Brett. I appreciate you having me, and I even more appreciate being named a former player for a March Madness favorite, and you named it as Quinnipiac and not West Virginia.
I know that's true too. I know you didn't get to play for Bob. Well, you didn't play basketball at West Virginia, right?
Well, so, dude, I mean, you want to dive right into it?
Yeah.
This is actually an interesting story that I've actually never shared publicly.
I'll take it.
Yeah, this is a good one. I've been dying to put this one out there, so it's a good spot to do it.
Okay.
So when I went down there with the intent on playing basketball, John Beeline and I had plenty of conversations like leading into the season, and they were kind of full on their squad as in terms of roster, but the idea was for me to work my way into the team when I got there. So like I was at practice, working with the guys and stuff like that. And after my freshman year, John Beeline left. He went to go to Michigan.
Right.
And I was kind of in limbo, man. Like I was, and just so everybody has a little idea, West Virginia is my dream school. Like I grew up, my dad's from West Virginia. I grew up at Mountaineer. Like I would have done anything. If I had gotten a scholarship to Notre Dame, I would tell them to screw off. I'm going to WVU. So I'm at WVU, and Huggins comes in, and I essentially try to fake my way onto the team. Like I would just show up to practice. I remember I walked into a team meeting one time and just sat down as if I was just a regular guy here. And I got kicked out every single time.
And I just kept balls to do that,
man. It really did. It really did. And eventually, like Huggins was like dodging me, bro. I remember I showed up, I scheduled a meeting with him one time at like 3 p.m. on Tuesday. And I went in for the meeting, and the secretary was like, Coach Huggins is recruiting in Texas. He doesn't have a meeting. I was like, damn, I was like, this guy's really trying to, but I was unshakable, dude. But eventually I took the hint, and I traveled up north to Quinnipiac for the rest of it.
Yeah, and you got some great stories from there, and I guess I'll start with that just because you played there. So you did play basketball at Quinnipiac. Mm-hmm. Tell us about maybe transitioning from West Virginia, and how'd you choose that school as like, all right, I'm going to go there and try to play basketball?
Yeah, so You know, my basketball career was so interesting. You know, it really kind of all starts in high school. I was always under the impression that I was a very good basketball player. I always thought I could play Division One. But I was a bench warmer in high school. Did not play whatsoever. And I'm gonna preface this by saying I have a little ground to stand on here. I'm not just a bitter old man because I did play Division One basketball, and I was playing 28 minutes in games in Division One.
Yeah.
And so like my coach, like I know he hated me, and I have like oodles of proof of that. Mainly that I was a Division One basketball player who never played, and not even on senior night, which was interesting.
Wow.
So when I ended up getting a WVU, and which the only way I really did that was I recruited myself to go to West Virginia. I emailed Beeline every single day, and he eventually said, if you come to the tournament in Morgantown, I will come watch you play. So I literally assembled an AAU team of 5 people. My little brother at the time, who was in 8th grade, I made him the 6th man on the team. He didn't play 1 second the entire tournament. I paid the registration fee, organized the hotel as a 17-year-old kid. I did all of this to go to WVU because I was like, this is where I'm going to go to school. So I did it, and I emailed him. I said, look, I did it, nailed it, and got it. You got to show up now. So he shows up to one of my games at Morgantown High School. I was playing against a kid who was committed to Clemson, and I scored 46 points. And it was like this major moment for me. Ironically, Beeline sat right underneath the basket, and I missed every single free throw because I was so rattled because he was watching me, but I scored 46 points outside of it. So eventually, we start like trying to get roll into WVU now. And Beeline was like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. It's a shame what happened to him in the NBA. But so when things didn't shake out at WVU, I didn't have tape to send to anybody. I literally emailed every Division I school in the country. Any D3 school that recruited me was never even entertained because I was so adamant on playing Division I. And I only had 2 schools that responded to me. It was Quinnipiac and the University of Hawaii. So these were my two finalists because they were the only schools that even said anything back. Both schools wanted film, which I did not have. So I had my roommate at WVU come with me to the rec center to film me and put it on YouTube. So we made a little highlight film, and I'm in there like dunking on girls. Like I am just like I created this most savage highlight film, and we sent it up to them. And it just, I ended up at Quinnipiac because it was way closer. I live in Jersey, so Connecticut made more sense. Hawaii was just absurd. And I remember when I got to Quinnipiac, one of my coaches, like a year or 2 into me being there, he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Sean, I just got to ask you a question. The guys are telling me up there, did you actually send film of you playing against girls to and I was like, yes, like, you don't understand. I did not have film. Like I had nothing to send. I was just telling them I was good. So it was a long journey to play Division I, but it was amazing. And it really worked well at Quinnipiac.
That's a crazy story, man. Well, good for you because you were persistent and you stayed on them. And, that's awesome that you did that. I wanted to get to a cool story about the fact when you were with Quinnipiac about you told a story. Your coach had a drill that you guys would do. It was kind of a rebound box out drill. And I did, when I was doing my research, I heard this story. And I was like,
did your research on this one?
This is good because there was something to do with Ben Gordon used to do this drill. So I want to hear about the story of what that meant to you also mentally moving forward in your life.
Yeah, well, kudos to you, man. You dug that one up. So this drill was called one-on-one box, and it brings me nightmares to this day. So I had heard about this drill coming into my first year at Quinnipiac. Now I'm coming from the Big East, man. Like, and this was like the pinnacle of the Big East. So I'm feeling myself a little bit. I'm like, I'm going to Quinnipiac here. I got this, and our coach was coming from UConn, where Jim Calhoun was the coach. He was the associate head coach for 13 years under Calhoun. So he was bringing that system to Quinnipiac. Yeah. So I had heard about this drill. And the idea was one coach stands off to the side with the ball, and you're at the foul line with your back to the basket. And the entire team is in a line facing you. And what you have to do, the coach is going to shoot the ball. One player will run down. You got to box him out and get the ball. You got to get 3 stops in a row. Now, the catch is that there are no fouls. Okay. Now, when I first got there, I was like, okay, no fouls, but there's obviously fouls. That's where I was extremely mistaken. I saw people in chokeholds, full tackles, people taking their legs out. I mean, this was a no holds bar situation. Like, you got to get your three. And what I found was, being there for a while, was a little bit of a newbie, hazing almost. It was like our initiation to the team. Like, whenever a freshman would come in there, it was, hey, look, we're gonna get the freshmen. Like, we're gonna show them what this is. And so, you're in the box. We call it in the box, and you just, like, every 10 times the coach shoots the ball, you have a fresh body coming at you. And like, I'm 6'4" at the time, about 180, and you could have a guy 6'11", 310, just bat out of hell, shot out of a cannon, coming at you, trying to just mow you down, and they will mow you down. And it's just fresh body after fresh body after fresh body. So if my first time I was ever in the drill, I'm in there and I'm getting the business, man. I'm really struggling. We get to the point where we called it wet noodle syndrome, where you're just like floppy and you're like, I can't do anything. And ironically, oddly enough, you actually had to get the rebound. If the offensive player scored, he could just get the rebound again and keep scoring. And our coach played with Jordan on the Bulls. So he offered us an MJ, a Jordan brand sweatsuit if we got to 10 buckets, right? So like, the offensive player just wasn't stopping. And I was getting annihilated. And in my head, my coach, I was thinking, this guy has to stop this drill. I cannot get this. And after a while, coach blows the whistle, calls everybody in. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. He calls everybody in and he goes, when I was at UConn, Ben Gordon was in this drill. Ben Gordon at the time, he was like a big time NBA player.
Yeah.
Like all-star guy and everything. So I was like, he's like, when I was at UConn, Ben Gordon was in this drill, and he was in this for 46 minutes. And he looks up at the clock, looks back at me, and he goes, you got 26 to go. And I was like, oh my God, this is no mercy, man. And from, you talk about it from a mental standpoint, I always remember that drill because it reminds me that there's just so much more in the tank than you could realize. And like, I got out of the drill. I did. And when I did, like, I thought all hope was lost. And I finally just like strapped it up. And for 3 guys, I just gave it everything I had. And every time I ever did that drill going forward, as nervous as it made me, I would just like dig my feet in. And when that guy was running at me, I was going to absolutely smoke him. Like, he was gonna meet a brick wall at the foul line. And I was just full out 100% everything I have every single time I have to do this. Otherwise, you are toast. Whew, bringing up the memories, dude.
Yeah, right. I think you, even on that interview, you mentioned about burning the boats. If you really are going to go all in on something, you have to quote unquote burn the boats. So that was the message I got from it, which was awesome, man. It inspired me when I heard that story as well.
Yeah, and I think about it frequently, even in business, where I'm just like, look, I'm always in the box, man. If I feel like I'm competing with somebody, and I like, one of the things I tell people is, I'm like, at least in business, if you're just trying to be successful and achieve, like, you have to know what it's like to be in a dogfight, right? We see it in like the NBA finals all the time. Like the Warriors and the Cavs. The Warriors were winning all of them because the Cavs just didn't really grasp what was going on in the finals. And then like the next year, it's more competitive because they have some experience at that level. And, I've been in the dogfight. Like, me and some new guy who's never been there before, I will win the first time because you don't know where those switches are, and I know how to flip them.
Sure. No, that's awesome, man. So you did, like you mentioned, go to school for journalism, but then you ended up being a strength and conditioning coach. So how did that all go down?
So here's the deal. So the reason I chose journalism was because I was 100% positive I was going to go to the NBA. I willed myself to play Division I basketball. And I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to Quinnipiac. I'm going to average 25 and I'm going to go to the league. It obviously didn't quite work out that way. But so journalism was a snag just because I thought it would be the easiest thing I could pick. So I did that. I finished up. I actually interned if you Google my name, you actually find a couple articles that I wrote for the New Haven Register in Connecticut, where I was an intern for a couple months or something like that. I hated it. Then I was a substitute history teacher for a little bit. And I just quit that because I was like, I hate this so much. And then I randomly just decided to give it strength conditioning a shot. I remember my strength coach at college, who was a cool guy, got to wear shorts every single day. And I just kind of went in on a whim, and I just studied from scratch to pass the certification test. My coach let me intern at Quinnipiac for a year, which was a pretty awkward experience for me because, I would be out, because I was coaching like the women's lacrosse team, and I was at the bars with these girls like the year before. So it was uncomfortable situation. Yeah. And I wasn't ready for it. And my first internship was my first real internship was with the Staten Island Yankees in short season out here. And that was the first place where I got a vibe for what this whole thing was like. And especially like, the deal, like pro ball, it's such a different feel and such a different vibe. And it's really enjoyable. And for me, it was like a really eye-opening experience. And those guys, they were really cool and fun. So that's kind of how it transitioned. And my next spot was with you, Brett.
That's right. So you never actually got to be my strength and conditioning coach in season, but obviously in spring training, you and I would chat, and we'd have great, basketball talks and all kinds of stuff. So it was awesome to meet you there. But I think your first full season was in Missoula, Montana, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. That was my first year, 2013 with the D-backs was in Missoula.
And I know you have some great stories from there. So if you could, any of the ones, I know you've been sharing a ton of them on TikTok lately. So what's a good Missoula, Montana story?
Man, Missoula was a lot of fun. I was really getting my feet wet. I think I actually told this on TikTok was when a guy, I don't even remember who it was. He came in to do a workout with me. And after the workout, he walked right into Hammer's office, the manager, and retired on the spot. Oh yeah. So everybody was wearing me out for making a guy quit. But I think the funniest story that I remember from Missoula. Did you ever play there?
I never played there. Because is that rookie ball or short season?
Yeah.
I wasn't with the I didn't get drafted by them. I got traded eventually later, Rule 5 to them.
I got you. Yeah. So they have this like tiny little short season weight room. And we had like, the cable column, the one you like stick in the corner, the standard setup.
Oh yeah.
And I said, like, I didn't even know you get all this equipment. Like when I show up for day one, like I don't even know what's going to be in there. So I just like show whatever. And it's all this like weird shit. And we got one of the, I think he was a new draft guy that year, was sent up to us from extended. And it was actually Brad Keller, who is now like the ace for the Royals.
Okay.
And I love Brad. He's just like the sweetest dude, man. Like he's such a nice guy. And he was from high school. So he's super green, like pumped to be in the pros. And his first start with the Osprey, with the Missoula Osprey, he comes like, you remember the routine, like you pitch and then you come right into the weight room afterwards.
Yeah.
And I told our trainer, I was like, yo, I'm gonna fuck with this kid a little bit. And I was like, because we had this like strap and I didn't know what it was, but it looked like a head strap. Like you like attach it to the cable column and then you like put it around your head. I don't even know if that's what it was. So I was like, all right, yo, what's up, Brad? Like, well, welcome to the show, man. Like, this is how it works up here in the pros. And I was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna, do this like row thing, and we're gonna, do a cable chop or something. And then we got to do this thing for the neck strengthening. We got to make sure that your neck is really strong because you're gonna be playing a lot of games this year. You're gonna be looking one way and the other. Like this is a really important thing. So I had him put this thing around his head. I made it up on spot, and he was like doing like this, like legitimately attached to the cable column. And it was like adorable, like a 17-year-old kid like doing this, and we got him on film doing it, and everybody started cracking up afterwards. But it was so funny, man, and it makes it even better now that he's like this freaking superstar in the MLB, man. He was the man, dude. He was awesome.
That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, you get to have a lot of, it's a long season. You got to find ways to have fun. So. But I want to talk to you also about because it is a long season, people sometimes overlook not just the players going through the grind of the minor leagues, but you got the training staff, you got the broadcasters, you got the strength coaches. You guys are living the same life we are, riding on the crappy buses and the terrible conditions, and especially in rookie ball short season. Yes. So you got 25 guys to take care of, not just yourself, because, the minor leagues is a super selfish lifestyle. You got to worry about 25 dudes plus the coaches and all that stuff. So what was it like for you to go through as a non-player going through minor league baseball each year?
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting. I remember specifically my second year I was in Hillsborough and we won the championship. And I remember being on the field when we were like celebrating and they were like, announcing it to the crowd. The announcer came down, all that stuff. And I remember everybody like saying everybody they were like thankful for and grateful for. And me and the trainer were never mentioned. To be honest, I wasn't like pissed about it or anything like that. It was almost just like confirmation of the role that I play. And I didn't take, I had no ill will towards it. And like, it was, to me, it was like, okay, like, hey, listen, remember, you're like in a service industry. Your job is to serve here, your job. And I actually did feel a great deal of responsibility. We had all these kids every year, 25, 30, 35 kids with us who's, we kind of held their dreams, their childhood dreams in their hand. And I remember, how I cried when my basketball career ended because I realized I wasn't going to make it to the NBA. And every time a kid would go into the manager's office and get that call, or in spring training when your stuff isn't at your locker, that stood with me, where I was like, this sucks, this is hard, and I felt it was my duty to do everything that I could to do that. And that, it was one of the reasons I studied so hard, and I stayed late with guys. And I remember a lot of the other strength coaches in the organization, and really not to speak ill of anybody, but I always found it odd that, they were so adamant about, the time frame in which you're allowed to lift. And, they put limits on how much they could help. And I'm like, yo, I'm in Montana right now. None of my friends are here. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, if you want to come at 7:00 in the morning and lift, let's go, man. Let's do it. And so I really felt, I remember, I was making smoothies for everybody, literally made everybody a smoothie at the end of the game in Hillsborough. And it was all just driven from me trying to help. And I knew what everybody was trying to do. And I would work out with coaches. I would do massages on coaches, for a while in Kane County. My third year, I was doing, every time a pitcher would finish the game, I would give him like a 45-minute Swedish massage. And again, like, it was because I was trying to work on my skill a little bit. But what really mattered to me, like, I really genuinely was like, man, like, these guys, this is such a big deal to these guys. And it would be awesome if I could play a role in that along the way. And, I certainly tried to have a lot of fun with it. Having a brother who was like, he was kind of like, I wasn't in the Red Sox, but my vibe is he was kind of a diva, a first round pick. So like, having him to understand like what's good feel in baseball was always helpful. And we had a lot of fun. I used to do practical jokes all the time. And but yeah, it was fun. It was awesome. And for me, it was all about serving and not being, and that's not hearsay. Like, I really felt that way for the guys.
It sounds like it, man, because usually, and like you said, some of these, and look, players get bitter. Everybody gets bitter, especially when you get to like July, August, you haven't gotten moved up yet. People are just, they got the red ass. You know what I mean? Like, sure. No one wants to be in the same place they were in August when they started in April.
Sure.
So that's a great perspective. I didn't actually think you would look at it that way, but that's awesome, man, because most strength and conditioning coaches, even it's natural to get tired and to not want to do that stuff. You know, when it's not just like working with high school or college players. You got dudes with money behind them and an organization that, well, you can't touch this kid. You can't mess with this kid. That's had to be tough for you too, right?
Yeah, there were definitely a couple. I remember once in Missoula where we had the first round pick and an undrafted free agent in the weight room. And I was working out with the free agent. And, we had a coordinator in town, and the first round pick came in and he needed attention. And the coordinator just looked at me like, you know what you got to do. And so I had to just stop working with this guy and move over to him. And, it was, thankfully everybody really understood it. And the free agents kind of knew that they were hanging on anyway. And it wasn't, they and it always like, they felt it, I felt it, but we knew the deal. And most guys were really nice about it. I mean, of all the guys in the Diamondbacks that I interacted with, there were probably like 3 dickheads, right. Like 3 guys that just were like, you suck. And they were always the worst players too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird world. It's a different world, but I loved, my girlfriend always says, like, she's like, I know you worked in the NBA, but you always tell minor league stories. Like, my time in the minors was the best. Like, like just out on the road with the boys, having fun. And I just had we just did the craziest, most fun stuff in the most random places in America. It's good that I'm not back there anymore, but sometimes, I'm like, man, if I could go back to Mobile for a summer, we can imagine.
Yeah, man. And I actually, and as you know, I played in Mobile as well. And you climbed the ladder up to Mobile, which is AA in the minors. And just like players, you're trying to climb up the ladder to be a big league strength coach. But you decided to take a job, obviously not the wrong decision, to take a job with the Los Angeles Lakers, which is, different sport, way higher level. What was it about? I mean, not just the fact that you got the Lakers job, but like leaving minor league baseball to pursue something else.
Yeah. So I'm a basketball guy. So, it was always awesome to be able to, like, that would have been amazing, but I would have been just as happy going to the NFL or the big leagues. My thing was all along, like, I always set my sight was the big leagues. Like, I wanted to get to the big leagues, probably around somewhere in my second or third year with the Diamondbacks. As I was getting a lot smarter, and on the outside, I was really pushing the network and the education and developing a really good reputation for myself inside of the field, which was my plan. And I soon found out that inside of baseball, the collective bargaining agreement does not allow another team to speak to me without permission from my superiors in the Diamondbacks. And I knew for a fact, nothing against them for this, but I knew that sometimes permission was actually declined. And that was unacceptable to me. And while I understood it, I want to put my life in my hands and be able to dictate where I'm going to go and at least have some say in it. So I looked outside of baseball as an opportunity, because there was no, legislature that would stop me from having a conversation. Like, if the Yankees wanted to have a chat with me and the people in the Arizona were like, "Nah, we were going to keep him," I would never even know that existed. And that was not okay with me. So I just started networking really aggressively with people in NBA circles and trying to put myself in a position where like something could brew there. And I remember thinking, like, do I need to be a physical therapist here? Because they had a lot of like dual certified strength coaches in the NBA. And the year before, after my year in Kane County, like, things started to bubble a little bit. I was getting some calls and some stuff. And then finally, when I was in Mobile, I think we were out in Mississippi, and I got a call. We were playing the Mississippi Braves, and I got a call from the Lakers, and I didn't tell anybody. I told, because I had to leave. I left out of. We were coming home from Montgomery, I think, and I just went right to the airport for a 6 a.m. flight to Atlanta, from Atlanta to LA on an off day in the minors. I bought a suit at a Kohl's or a JCPenney's in Montgomery, Alabama. Got a haircut in Montgomery, Alabama, because I had long hair back then.
Okay.
And I was flowing. The minors, man. So I changed into a suit at the bathroom at an airport in LAX, right to the facility. And then I went from the facility after the interview. I went to the airport, flew back to Atlanta, and then I flew to Mississippi, and I met the team in Biloxi, and nobody knew besides the coaching staff that I had just done that. And I really, actually, one of the best moments of my life was at the end of that season. We were finished. Our last game was in Jacksonville, and looking back, I kind of feel bad for some of the guys. Probably yanked their chain a little bit, but you know how it is, like 40-man or September call-ups at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Hammer, who was our manager, he's, does the rigmarole at the end. It was really great working with everybody. I'm proud of all you guys. And he's like, well, we do have one guy getting called up in September to go to the big leagues. And it was Sean Light. He's going to be the strength coach for the Lakers. And everyone was like, what the are you kidding me? And even my heart was beating so hard, man, but it was so great. It was like really cool.
Up, dude.
It was a really cool moment.
Cool for you.
Yeah. I knew some of the guys were probably like pissed that it wasn't them, but for me, it was, and the guys were awesome about it.
That's awesome, man. What a great experience. And hey, look, I have to ask you about the Lakers, of course, because I'm a Laker fan. I grew up in Southern California, man. It's my
time to be a Laker fan.
Oh my God, my team. Not a great time right now, but you got to, just working for an iconic organization like that. I know you're only there for 1 year, but what do you remember about what it was like to work for the Lakers?
It was truly an incredible experience. I remember, and I remember thinking every day, like, this is amazing. I remember standing, before games at Staples Center, watching them like announce the guys come out, and the Laker girls are out there, and Denzel Washington's in the front row. And, I remember one time I was like going in the back in the tunnels, and I opened the door, and I hit whoever was on the other side was too close, and it was Justin Timberlake. It's just like celebrities everywhere, and like the NBA guys. I remember the first time I saw LeBron James and Steph Curry. Like, I remember being in the weight room with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, having a conversation with Vince Carter. And I mean, there's just so much, so many cool memories. And, I remember the first time they put the jerseys up in the locker before the game. And I remember thinking, like, that's the actual Lakers uniforms. That's not, nobody got that from Macy's or something. Like, that's the real deal right there. So I was always excited. I loved, the stuff that really stands out to me, getting to know the guys and them becoming like humans and buddies to me. And I still talk to a handful of them today, which is like, I'll get a text from, Timofey Mozgov or somebody. Okay. And I'll be like, man, 10-year-old Sean would think this is the coolest thing ever, and, I just, there's just every ounce of that minus the end and even the end, who gives a shit, was just an absolutely unbelievable, just surreal experience for me. It really was.
No, I bet, man. And so, yeah, if you're willing to speak about how it all ended, how do you remember it going down when you left the Lakers?
Yeah. So to give you some context, I was hired by Mitch Kupchak, who was the general manager when I first got there. And he had been there a long time, staple of the organization. And I'm talking like 40 years he was there, and he ended up getting fired midway through the season. And they brought in Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, who's still the general manager there. And I was excited. I was like, dude, fuck Magic Johnson. Like, this is sick. And I was my first year there with Luke Walton, who was also his first year there. And I felt that on some level I had some job security just because we were all so fresh and so new. I didn't think that they were going to, I thought that I kind of was linked to Luke Walton versus, if Luke was there, I'd probably be okay. But so in the opening press conference, which I went to for Magic Johnson, because I was hyped, he made like some sly remarks about the strength and conditioning of the team. And I remember thinking like, uh-oh, that's not great. And then he became obsessed with the body fat percentages of the players, which is, if you're a strength coach and you have any clue about yourself, that that's a largely irrelevant number. Like, you can manipulate it however you want. And we did manipulate it, right? We just used a different test. Like, he wanted the numbers to be, he wanted everybody under 4%, which is stupid.
That is really hard to do.
It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so we just changed the tool that we used that had made everybody go way, way, way lower. So yeah, he just, whatever. So we don't get into that, but he, there was a lot of he was putting the screws to us a little bit throughout the season. And again, I was in the middle of a contract negotiation before he got fired. I was getting an extension, and everything went silent after that. So I started being like, I don't know about this. There was a random meeting with the sports medicine and performance staff that was a little slightly off-putting, but not enough to totally raise my awareness. And then I remember on the last game of the season at Staples Center, Rob Pelinka was right outside the door, and I'm walking out of the locker room I've got the bands in my hand, going out to center court to stretch the guys. And you the way it's set up at Staples Center, you leave locker room, turn right, and then you make a left and you go through this tunnel, and there's the Laker girls are right there. It's sick. And all the fans are dude, look.
Yeah.
And I love it. So Rob was right before that. And I was like, yo, what's up, Rob? How you doing, man? And he's got his phone and he looks up at me and he goes, oh, hey, yeah. What's up, guy? And you just get that feeling. And I was just like, oh no, there's something's bad here. This guy doesn't even know who I am. So at the end of the season, we played the Warriors for the final game of the season in Golden State. Flew back to New Jersey just to hang out with my family and friends for a week or so before the offseason stuff kicked up. And I got a call from, no joke. I was at an Italian deli. I was getting my friend and my sister were going to get some sandwiches, and it was going to be on me, right? Big Lakers guy. So I was like, I get the call and I leave my card on the table. I was like, just whenever they come, just you guys pay for it. So I walk outside. I get the call, and it was like the secretary. I couldn't believe they had the secretary do this. And she's like, "Hey, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but we're not going to renew your contract." My initial reaction was, "I'm so sorry you had to make this call. It's okay. Don't worry about it." So I hang up the call. I hang up the phone. I'm starting to get some texts coming in from people like the head strength coach was like, "Dude, what's going on?" And I was like, "Dude, they just fired me." So I walk back into the deli and I pick up my card and I go, "This one's on you guys." They're like, "What the hell, man?" And I was like, "I just got fired. This is on you. This is on you." So yeah, man. So after that, I had to like awkwardly fly back to LA to get my stuff. I had to be escorted by security back into the facility to pull my stuff out. And it was a very awkward time. But I will say this, like at no point, like I was upset and disappointed, but at no point was I, pissed off that I got fired. I think when you take a job at that level, you have to know that is always part of the deal. And while I didn't think it was going to happen after one season, what can you do? It's the life you choose.
Wow. And did the whole staff get fired along with you, or they just cleaned out a couple people?
So they did it in like segments. And I think a lot had to do with like your contract. That was on a 1-year deal to start. So it's easy to get me out of there. Like the head strength coach was fired like a month or two later.
Oh, okay.
And then like I think the following year they let like 2 more people go, and then like now the only person that remains was the massage therapist. I don't know how she's done it, but her staying power is outstanding. But she's cool. So yeah, it was just kind of. It was, yeah, and I say this too because I certainly don't want to come off as like a bitter dude.
Sure, not at all.
As like if I'm in Magic Johnson's shoes and I'm taking over the organization, like I would want my guys in there too.
Right. That usually happens.
And I get that. I'm with that. They ended up hiring Kim Kardashian's personal trainer, which was a little sus to me, but but hey, what are you going to do?
Was Gary Vitti still the trainer then?
Oh my God, GV. GV was not the trainer
because this was like the post Kobe post.
Yeah,
right?
I think he retired the season before with Kobe, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that sounds right.
He was around all the time. Me and Gary had a lot of conversations, but I know Gary well, but he was not on staff at the time.
Right, but he seemed like he's a pretty cool guy, right?
He's an interesting fellow, man. He's been around. He's seen all sorts of stuff. And he was really good to me. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome, man. So now you're, at that point, you're without a job in professional sports at all. And then you come up with a business called Weight Room Wealth, but it was called something else before that. How did you come up with the idea to totally make a shift to not be a strength and conditioning coach anymore per se, and to do something completely different?
So, I was interviewing with a handful of NBA teams and I got some calls. The Diamondbacks invited me back, which was awesome. I appreciated that. But for me, it came down to the fact that, I worked so hard and I spent thousands of dollars trying to improve my education. I got a license in massage therapy. As you know, a lot of the folks at the Airs with the Diamondbacks had that as well. And I just worked so hard and I was good. I was a good strength coach.
Yeah.
And while I didn't mind being fired, I minded how easily it could be done. And with no, like Magic Johnson and I shook hands once. And even so, like, they don't, the front office, they don't really grasp how the strength and conditioning world works. Like the weird thing about fitness is that everybody thinks with beyond a shadow of a doubt that they know what to do. Right. And even me, I thought that when I first became a strength coach, and the depth and the complexity of it is insane. It's like way, way more than you think. And so that the fragile ground, like I remember interviewing for a team that was like a bad team. And I was like, they just hired a new coach. It's like, he's going to go there for 3 years. He's just going to get fired. And he did. And then am I going to be out of a job again?
The whole staff too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would look at all these other coaches, these other strength coaches that I knew that had been the strength coach for Minnesota, Orlando, Indiana, or Miami. And I'm like, that's not the life that I want to live. Like I want a little more stability. So I opened up, I created a I created a business called 4A Health and Performance Sciences. Not the best name looking back on it.
I like 4A. And is that a reference to guys
it
that
is.
are
It
great
is.
for AAA, but don't really play well in the big leagues? They're, that tweener.
Exactly. So my idea was it was going to be like big league service, right? Like that's why I called it 4A. You're the only person who ever just immediately knew that.
It's a common thing with guys that get called up and they're just they can't hang in the big leagues. Yeah.
Baseball guys know for sure.
Yeah.
So I started. So my idea was to travel around the country and give these 2-day seminars. And I was very popular at the time. When you become an NBA strength coach in the strength and conditioning community, you are the guy,
right?
Especially with the Lakers, it just like magnified it all.
Sure.
So I was going to go around the country and teach these seminars to strength coaches and personal trainers and athletic trainers, stuff like that. And I put together my first seminar, and I went out to 2 facilities here in New York City to get them to host it. Did that, set the dates, announced it on social media, and I eventually had to cancel both of the seminars because I sold exactly 0 tickets for both of them. And it was extremely humbling and embarrassing for me because I thought I was the man. Like I was Sean Light, the Lakers strength coach, former Lakers strength coach. And like, I thought it was going to be easy for me. I was like, who wouldn't want to hear what I have to say? And to be fair, like I am smart and I know some stuff. I don't think that like, I'm not the smartest guy. But I do think I had stuff to share, but I just didn't understand the sales and marketing aspect of it and how difficult it is to get people to give you money for something.
Right.
And it was kind of one of these crossroads of life where I was like, I'm either going to give up and go back to one of these other jobs that I had, or I'm going to figure out this sales and marketing thing. And it has led me in this like wild ride of, evolution and transformation. And today the business Weight Room Wealth, it's a bit of a culmination of everything. What I have found, Brett, is that people who are trying to achieve, and it's easy for me to classify them as entrepreneurs because that's what they're all trying to do. When you start a business, everybody's looking for the strategies and the marketing tactics and stuff like that. But the real thing that moves a business forward, and we've learned this through the worst possible way of trial and error in hardship and struggle and failure. But the real thing that moves the needle in the right way is productivity, the enthusiasm and the energy that you have as an entrepreneur, the energy you pour into what you do, your creativity as an entrepreneur, your willingness to serve, your willingness to help, and like thinking things through. And what I found was that so much of what I did from a strength and conditioning standpoint, meshed so well from an entrepreneurial world. When thinking through what was going to be unique about my business, it was that I was the strength coach for the Lakers. And when we think about baseball, the best strength coaches, like you play so many games in baseball every single day. The best coaches, the best strength coaches are the coaches that allow you to feel good every day. Not necessarily the guys who get you to throw harder. You guys are already at the absolute top of human capacity of being able to throw, this velocity or hitting power. There's just not much room for improvement. I can't make Brandon Ingram jump higher. Like he's at the top. But if I can make you 100% as good as you possibly can be, like most of your capacity every single day, like that's the thing. So it's about like energy system development, recovery, getting yourself to feel good every single day, understanding the body in that way, being able to down regulate the system so it can be at peak performance the next day. All of that was what business was. And that's what holds 98% of businesses back, is just like the efficiency, productivity, and enthusiasm, energy, fuel of the entrepreneur. And that's all it's all manufacturable through exercise science, through mindfulness, and things along that line. And what I've done is I've taken all of it and made it into a science and something that people can very easily, implement like a formula and then put it out into the world. And this means it's transformative for people when they really buy in and go through it.
So who are the types of clients that you're helping out? Like, are you fitness coaches, or like what kind of people are you working with?
Yeah. So, I mean, mainly, from an individual standpoint, we'll see, obviously I have a good reputation in the strength and conditioning world. So we see a lot of health and wellness folks, and they buy in really well on like the fitness side of it and the mindfulness side, and stepping into like the physical space of what entrepreneurship is about. But man, we've worked with everybody. But you know, I've worked with software companies. I was Sports Academy in Africa, in virtual gifting company who was trying to compete with like Venmo and stuff, which I was not advising.
Yeah.
But you know, like people like that. And what we're doing now is we're like opening up facilities, like corporate wellness facilities for businesses to be able to send their employees to. And we're getting creative to try to allow for them to send them for free, which would be amazing if we're able to make that happen. And the wheels are kind of in motion on that right now.
Yeah.
And we're working on putting facilities inside of residential buildings that are going up in the area. And we're really just trying to curate the health and fitness space better. We're trying to do it in a way that's very, very easy to follow, and we're trying to make it affordable for a lot of people so that that it can work and that it can get out there and people get better care. We're putting in PTs and athletic trainers and stuff like that. It's really cool stuff, and I'm like really proud and excited about it.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on that, and that you'd be able to use all the knowledge you've gained over the years to turn it into something, which is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Speaking of the marketing side, you started doing a lot of social media and videos on TikTok, especially, and other platforms. What's it like for you to go all in on creating content? You also have a podcast that you've had for a while now. You and your brother have your own podcast. So now that you're starting to deliver content out, what's it been like for you to create that kind of content?
You know, you really got to get through that awkward phase, and you know, I remember posting like for the first time, like really putting effort into it, and you know for a fact that people are like snickering at you. Like I know it's happening.
For sure. I had to get through that imposter syndrome as well, man.
Yeah, and it's like you know that people are like, well, what's this guy do? He's going to be Instagram famous or something like that. And yeah, it is an uncomfortable thing to do. But one of my favorite lines, Gary Vaynerchuk, you know Gary V?
Gary V. Oh yeah,
everybody does, right?
F your parents. Yeah. Hey, by the way, the comedians that do him, have you seen some of these?
Yes.
Oh my God,
they're great. They're great.
Yeah.
So one of Gary's my favorite lines from him is, everything is stupid until it's not. And I always tell the story. When I was a kid, like third grade, it's actually a good one. When I was in third grade, I used to love the Backstreet Boys. But liking the Backstreet Boys in third grade in like 1997 is like social suicide. And I had like the Backstreet Boys lanyard. Like I loved the Backstreet Boys. And I remember somebody coming up to me one day in school going, "Hey, Sean, I heard you like the Backstreet Boys." And I was like, "Yeah, don't you?" And he's like, "No, it's so stupid." And like, he gave me a lot of shit for it. And I remember just being like, "Dude, shut up." Like, what an idiot. Like, I remember like thinking like that didn't really bother me. And actually fast forward, this is good. And when I was working for the Lakers and I was like, after hours, I was lifting in the weight room, and I have a boy band playlist on my phone.
Okay.
And I was ripping NSYNC. And I was like loud too. And Luke Walton walks into the weight room and he goes, "Are you serious right now?" He's like, "Are you listening to NSYNC?" He's like, "You are the biggest loser I know." And I looked at him and I go, "How old are you, dude? Like, what the hell?" And I remember walking away from that being like, man, like, I have one of my superpowers is not caring, like being able to like do things that other people would be really embarrassed about, but doing it anyway.
Sure.
I went live on TikTok this morning and it was just absolute trash. But I'm like, I know I got to get through that to get to the part where it becomes good. So for me, it's about just like putting as much stuff out there, really trying to give good content and not being an idiot about, just throwing up stupid crap, and trying to understand like what works. And I found that a lot of like good storytelling is very effective on there. So I try to like bust out my old school stories and stuff like that. And those are the ones that really blow up for me. And now I'm trying to like figure out how to like mold like my business experience into good stories that are compelling on social, which is a work in progress for me. I don't have that yet, but I'm working on developing it. And there's just so much, especially on TikTok, there's so much explosive opportunity there that I'm not going to be an idiot and not take advantage of it. It's just so there. And I don't care if people see me. I know they're seeing it. I know they're saying stuff, whatever. Talk to me in 10 years.
Right. You got to go for it. That's awesome. And, on some of your posts, you're talking about implementing psychology into your life and the books you've read. So maybe, I don't know, some of your favorite, not to go all Gary V on you here, but some of your favorite mindsets or thought process that you think would help others become successful.
What a great question. You know, the brain is an interesting thing. And if I could relay anything to the people listening, what you have to understand, this is how I thought about sports too, was that the brain governs everything involving the body. You know, Brett, if you're standing out on a mountain, you're loose as a goose, you're throwing fuel, like you're feeling good. But as soon as the pressure cooks in, your ability to perform changes because of the reaction that happens inside of the brain. And the same thing is happening for business, for performance. Even if you just want to like improve like your revenue inside of like, or get a promotion or something like that. What you have to understand is that the brain has a variety of like wavelengths that it can flow through. So Brett, if you made me really nervous out here right now and I was really scared to be on this podcast, I would be in what they call beta. And I'd be hard for me to remember my stories. I'd be like nervous. I might be stuttering, but I know you, I'm comfortable with you. I know you're a good guy. You know, you've done your research and you're bringing up your questions, right? So we move into an alpha wave, right? So when you're relaxed, that's when you're on the mound and you're feeling good. You're in that flow state, like everything's going well. Like you're not worried about the time. You're not worried about, you're just like, I'm going to pop this mitt. Like that's when you're feeling good. So in terms of business, in terms of success, you have to understand that you literally cannot succeed. You cannot, you can't create, you can't be creative. You can't like have full access to all of your potential in a beta wave pattern. So if you're not aware of what's going on in here, then you might be, beating a dead horse. Like you have no chance. Like you're running into a brick wall. You have no chance of getting through that. So like we use some technology called binaural beats, which allow you to pull your brain waves down to the one you want it to be. And you can manipulate it, in one way or the other, which is really cool. But you have to be aware of the fact that if you're not in a good brainwave pattern, you absolutely cannot. You have to be able to manipulate that and be aware of that in advance. So I think that that's really important. I think that the other thing that I would, let's get into, we'll hit Gary V. I'd like to put some science to Gary V for you.
Yeah.
Gary V talks about gratitude all the time. And when he says it, like, well, we get it and it kind of makes sense, but, it kind of feels cheesy. It feels like easy for you to say, Gare, you're killing it. And I'm, we're trying to get it going, but we're nothing like you, man. So I have, the reason that I was able to go from journalism degree to MBA in 4 years was because I studied neurology and became a self-proclaimed expert in brain science, specifically with respect to performance. And in business, when you're trying to get to a certain level, you have to become the person first. Like the old adage is, give me fire and then I'll add the wood. And you have to add the wood first. And everybody talks about like, I'm gonna once I get there, then I'll give to charity. Once I do that, then I'll become the person. And it doesn't work that way. If I want to make $1 million in a year, I need to become skilled enough, productive enough, efficient enough, consistent enough, and doing it all the time to the level of $1 million. And once I'm executing at that level, the money comes because I've reached that level. I'm doing the work and the money becomes automatic because I've become the person. And when you realize that you have to become the person, you have to become the person of whatever your goal is before the event happens. This is where gratitude takes on a different meaning, because when you feel grateful for something, like I'm grateful for the opportunity to communicate, to, reconnect with you. I think you're a good guy. I love that you're pushing on social. I love that what you're doing. Like I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I'm grateful to be in my apartment right now, overlooking Manhattan. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the things that I already have. Right. Yeah. But if you can be grateful for something that you don't have already, the emotional signature of gratitude is that the event has already happened. So if I'm grateful for the $1 million, but I don't have the $1 million yet, the brain is registering that event. It does not know the difference between an imagined event and a real event. So it's filing it away in my brain as the real thing. And it sends the chemical down to my brain, my body, which is that feeling of gratitude. It's oxytocin that goes down to the brain, into the body, and embeds that new event, even though it hasn't happened, into the nervous system. And because you have now found gratitude for something that hasn't happened yet, you have effectively become the person before the event has happened. And that's when the event can happen. So one of my big goals here is kind of, as Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's a good one for people to check out. He says, demystifying the mystical. And I want to show people, like, there is a real science to making money. There's a real science to revenue. There's a real science to a success and achievement. And if you do the thing, I'd say in science class, if I take two chemicals and I pour them together, I'm going to get a result. If I take one of those chemicals and put it behind my back and only put in one, I don't get the result. If I take a different chemical and I put them together, I get a different result. There's a science, a formula here. And if you put the right chemicals in, you're going to get the result. People always tell me, Sean, I'm more than willing to do the work. I just don't know what to do. I just told you what to do. It's just not what you thought it was. And that is where people run into a brick wall, because it's so different than what they expected it to be. But put the cap on it for you. 99% of small businesses fail. 99% of people won't become a millionaire, which means that the natural inclination of the human being must be wrong. So whatever your rational mind is leading you to, it has to be something different. And that's where all this stuff comes in.
That's great stuff, man. I love that. I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now, man. You're firing me up.
That's what it's all about, man. That's what I do. I do it all day.
Yeah. Okay, last few things I want to get to. I do want to talk about your brother for a second, because he did play in the big leagues, and what it was like going alongside him. I know you were a strength coach, while he was maybe still playing and whatnot, but what was maybe, he talks about striking out Mike Trout was his favorite moment, or getting called up to the big leagues. I know he loves to tell that story about Mike Trout.
Oh, I heard enough about that.
What maybe sticks out to you about as he was rising, or when he made it, that you remember that mattered to you?
I always thought it was really cool. My brother, he barely made the team in high school. He made the freshman team in high school because his 8th grade science teacher happened to be the freshman team coach. And I think it was his junior year, he was going to be on JV again. And like literally all 5 starters for varsity got hurt on like the same week. And they just called him up to be the starter. And he literally never lost in high school. And I remember my mom, I was at WVU at the time, mom would be like, Patrick won again today. He won again today. And I was like, damn, like this guy's winning all the time. And then one day she was like, yeah, the Atlanta Braves were at the game. And I was like, what? And so it became this, he got drafted by the Twins out of high school and then first round out of college with the Red Sox. And it was cool, man. It was really exciting. It was, it was like the talk of the town. Like everybody wanted to talk about it. Everybody in the family wanted to talk about it. And I thought it was awesome. I was proud of him. I was excited. And he was checking the box. Like he crushed it in single A, crushed in double A. He was a beast in triple A. And then he got called up to the big leagues, and I was in Mobile at the time, and they let me fly out. It was really, really nice. Like Mike Bell, TJ Lacita, like they were all texting me and emailing me, telling me like congratulations and stuff. And it was really nice. So we flew out to Atlanta to watch him do his debut, and it was just cool. I mean, it's just cool as hell to watch your little brother, in the bullpen and running out. And, he was relieving David Price. That was his first guy he came in for. And, it was really cool. He had a rocky experience in the big leagues as well. He went to, the game where he struck out Mike Trout. He was put in the world's worst situation. I mean, truly, the game was like 11-2 in the 5th inning, bases loaded, no outs. Second big league appearance of all time. First batter he's going to face is Mike Trout. And I mean, Angels were hot. They were rolling, and he got shelled, man. And he struck out Trout like the second time he came up in the inning.
Not the first time.
Not the first time. It was tough to watch him. And then he got traded to Minnesota. And like they just wore him down. They pitched him like he was like pitching the most like innings per like week or whatever, like more. He had a higher like innings pitched like in a certain time frame than Andrew Miller, who was like the king at the time. and it just wore him down. Like his velo started dropping, and then they DFA'd him in the off season, like try to like sneak him under the waiver wire.
Okay.
And then the Pirates picked him up, and then everything kind of hit the fan after that. So it was a little, it was tough to watch him to go through that and stuff. But I remember it for the big leagues. I was like, if everything blows up, if everything sucks from here on out, like he was in the big leagues, man, you can. And we got his jersey right here.
Yeah.
And that's the first strikeout ball. I think it was like, what was it? Let's see what it says. Garcia for the, I don't know who that is, but Garcia struck out first out Garcia right there.
That's cool.
It was cool, man. It was a cool experience.
That's awesome. Last story I want to get from you. It was one that I saw today before the show about going back to social media. We got to talk about none other than Ivica Zubac, who was formerly on the Lakers with you when you were there. And now he's with the Clippers. As most people know, he's the center for the Clippers. So tell us what Ivica Zubac told you one day about your social media.
Man, Big Zoo. Love that guy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a good dude. And he was a rookie at the time. And, it was when I was first getting introduced to Gary Vee and hearing about like how to grow on social media and stuff like that. And he had this thing called the $1.80 strategy, just a stupid name for basically you go to like your industry or whatever and comment on people's photos so that they see you, they go to their page and they'll hopefully end up following you, get a bigger audience that way. And my brother was doing the same thing at the time. And we were all trying to grow on social media. And I remember being on the plane with the Lakers and like commenting on photos. And I would go to like Lakers comment photos and like comment and stuff. And you leave in hundreds of comments every single day. So it's like, some are good, some are bad.
Knowing you probably went all in on that and just did it like 1,000 times a day or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely doing, I don't know the number, but I started trying on social media with 400 followers. And by the time I finished, I was at 4,000. So I was like, and it was working. And I was with the Lakers and like people would like respond like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe the Lakers strength coach just, commented on my photo.
Right.
So one time I was in the weight room before the game and Ivica Zubac walks into the weight room at Staples Center with his phone in his hand. And he goes, everybody call me Slight. And he goes, hey, Slight. He goes, is this how you get followers? And he shows me a picture that I had commented on. And it was like the dumbest comment. It was literally like a family at the Lakers game. And I was like, thanks for coming to the game, everybody. I hope you had a great time. Go Lakers or something. And it was so embarrassing. And you just like, I'm Irish and Norwegian. So when I blush, everybody knows it. And I blushed so hard. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed by it. And because I know he was like good friends with Larry Nance on the team. And I know they were at the lockers, like, look at this idiot. And, I had a good comeback. I was something like, hey, we're not all 7-foot NBA stars. And, it was a tough moment, but, just one of those things where you just like on the come up, you got to put yourself in these positions. And
sure.
I always say that one of my like prerequisites to business and success is you have to feel things. If you don't feel things, you're not doing it right. So even though that wasn't necessarily the one I wanted to feel, it's a good story. It's a good story for me.
That's awesome, man.
I wonder if Zoo remembers it.
Oh yeah, no, that's hilarious. Okay, wait, I know I keep saying last thing, but just because obviously I'm a huge basketball guy and a Laker fan as well. And you mentioned Larry Nance Jr. Who were some of the freakiest? Obviously, he could jump out of the gym, but what do you like? Who like Brandon Ingram or guys like that? Like, who were the freakiest athletes that you got to be around in person and actually work with?
Brandon Ingram was like, he came in at like 19, 6'9", absolute, like ran like a deer. Julius Randle was an absolute freak. I will tell you this, the best basketball player that I have ever seen in my life, including everybody, including LeBron James, is Lou Williams. I got the chance to watch.
Man.
Yeah,
he can give you buckets,
bro. You have no idea, and like you have to like pay attention. And I would have only noticed it because I played with him. Not played, but I like watched him every single day in practice. That dude is the filthiest basketball player I have ever seen. I used to be amazed by what he could do. He hated lifting, never lifted. And I was like, all set, my man. You keep doing that. And
you're the sixth man of the year. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll tell you this though. The one guy that really stands out to me in my time there And we had that guy Yi Jianlian, who was just
Uh-huh.
7 foot Chinese player, which was like, he was really athletic. But the guy who I like, the number one guy I always talk about was Meta World Peace. And Meta World Peace gets a bad rap, rightfully so, because of the malice in the palace.
Sure.
But Meta World Peace was one of the nicest people I have ever met. I mean, he's just a wonderful person, like truly a good heart. And I think he just sees red from time to time. And he came out, he was born and raised in a really difficult, really tough area of New York. And I'm sure that influenced it as well. But I loved every second. Meta was my guy, and we worked out all the time together. And his ability to work, like, I mean, like there would be like media sessions going on the court, and he would just be doing like suicides after practice and sprinting. And I would be remiss. I'll tell you the best Meta World Peace story that
I would love to hear it.
And I have. So I'll give you two.
Okay.
One, this is a quick one. So we were in Detroit, pals of Auburn Hills, and so like obviously there's a little with Meta. Meta wasn't, he barely dressed that season. So he would sit behind the bench with me, and these guys behind the bench were just wearing him out. They were like, Meta, Ron, you're gonna come beat me up, man. And they were hitting, they were crushing them.
Yeah.
And it was like the third quarter, we were like, so like the routine was like, anytime there's a timeout, like the people behind the bench would stand up. So it'd be like me, Meta, other assistant coaches, whatever. And these guys were like, Meta, oh, you're gonna come punch me in the face. And he turns to me and he goes, these idiots are so stupid. And I was like, yeah, I know. What are you going to do? He goes, obviously I will come back there and punch them in the face. And I was like, yeah, what? That's a good point, man. Maybe I wouldn't be pushing those buttons. So that was good. But my all-time favorite meta story, and I don't think I've ever told this one like on a podcast or anything before, but it was in Boston. And we were playing the Celtics, and it was halftime of the game. So my role was, after halftime, I had to pack up our trunk. So we always travel with a trunk. There were like little weights and bands and supplements and stuff like that. We travel. So I always had to pack it up. And Boston's locker room is really small. I swear to God, they cranked the heat up in there. It's like 90 degrees in there. And next to the locker room, there's like this like a little mini hallway thing where we stuffed all the trunks so that we could just have some space inside of the locker room. And it was weird because in this little hallway, it's like you're under the bleachers, high school football style. So like you can like see people's feet, like sitting down at the game. And it was like like you're really under the bleachers at a high school game. So I'm back there, and I am back there putting away my trunk. And Meta, who was not dressing in the game, comes back, and he's like, hey, Sean, what are you doing, man? I was like, just packing my trunk, just getting things ready. Got to load it up for the plane later. And he's just like, and he looks to his left where the stands were, and he goes, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know this. Like, can you see the game from here? And I was like, nah, I don't think you can see the game from there. So he like walks up, and he's like looking, he's trying to like see, and then he turns around while I'm packing my trunk, and he goes, hey, Sean, what would you do? What would you do if I grabbed one of their legs right now? And I was like, dude, don't do that, man. Don't do that. He goes, I'm doing it. So I shit you not, he like goes up to their legs. Like you just see like calves and feet. And he puts his hand up to one, and he's like, he turns around, he's like, oh, and he goes up to another one. He's like, oh, and he finally picks his victim, and he grabs it, and he goes, ah! And he screams as loud as he can, and he just grabs somebody's leg. We bust it back into the locker room, and like the craziest moment, me and Meta World Peace on the floor of the Boston Celtics visiting locker room, like little schoolgirls dying laughing. And then we hear all this commotion going on outside, and we walk out to the little hallway, and like security is like looking down for stuff. And Meta walks out, and he goes, what seems to be the matter, officer? And I just think about like, now there is a gentleman somewhere in this world who tells the story of the TD Garden monster, like bleacher creature who grabbed his leg, and he has no idea that it was Meta World Peace who grabbed this humongous hand, just like coming out from the bleachers and grabbing him. He has no clue whatsoever that it was the Meta World Peace who did it. I think it's hilarious.
That is an unbelievable story, dude.
Yeah, it was great.
God. Only him too. right?
Oh,
And imagine
man.
if the guy knew who it was, like of all people.
Yeah, that might not have gone so well, man.
Yeah,
It was truly, truly, absolutely one of the hardest I've laughed in. Like, again, like surreal moment. Like, here I am with Ron Artest, just having a blast.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. That's amazing, man. So I could do this all day with you, but I know you got things to do as well. So where can everybody follow you? Because you're starting to tell stories like this on social media and all your podcast and your, the one with your brother. Any stuff where people can get you?
Yeah, so I think the best place right now is TikTok, man. I'm at Slight20, Slight20. I do have an Instagram, but TikTok is way better than Instagram right now, so I'm not really using it.
I agree.
Go over to weightroomwealth.com if you're interested in exploring that stuff. We have a free web class for anybody to take to just, get your feet wet and understand it a little bit more and understand the science of it. I do the best I can at breaking down the science and making it pretty manageable and understandable. And I'll say this, even if you're skeptical at all, it's worth exploring because it is truly it's just the way that human bodies work, and we do everything we can to leverage that and kind of steer into the skid so it's easier for you as opposed to always having to use mental toughness to get things done. So that's weightroomwealth.com.
Love it, man. Thank you very much, Sean. It was great to catch up with you, and this is long overdue, and this is one of my favorite episodes, man. So
that's great, man. I appreciate you, Brett.
Yeah, thank you. Well, if you didn't enjoy that episode, I don't know what episode you will enjoy. That was so much fun. My thanks to Sean, man. That was awesome. And his stories are incredible. So especially those Meta World Peace ones, man. Can't get enough of that. So my thanks to Sean, and so much insight, man, so much experience. And it's great to have him on. So I'm happy to reconnect with him. We knew each other almost 10 years ago with the Diamondbacks. So really cool to reconnect there. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube page, Too Tall Sports Podcast. We drop episodes every Thursday morning, so it's usually around 4 a.m. Pacific time for you early risers. If you want to watch the interviews there, they're all available on YouTube. Check them out, subscribe, leave a comment, like, share, all that stuff. And send it to a friend if you could, if you think it's good. So that would be also greatly appreciated. Help spread the word about Too Tall Sports Podcast. On the audio side, if you haven't done so already, hit that 5-star rating. That would really be greatly appreciated. I'm trying to expand and grow the show as much as I can and kind of help, boost my rating so I can get on this journey of sports media and you guys can help me maybe get on TV one day as an analyst. So who knows? You never know. But any help I will take. If you could hit the 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, that would be great. Leave a review where you can on Apple at the bottom of the episode's page on Apple. That would be awesome. You can also listen on Pandora, Amazon Music, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. You can find me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's TOOTALL Sports Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you very soon for another great episode. Have a good one.